It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on into the Full Court Press. My headphones are all the way across the table, Eric. I need to
Stretch.
I need you to bring the show in.
Got to stretch. Yes, here's Full Court Press. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. Streaming on 1069thefan.com and the KVNU mobile app. Lots of different ways to listen and join the show and be a part of the show on the Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321. I always love to hear what's on your mind. A couple of different things we'll discuss today.
I know a bit of a slower news day, to be honest. A lot of times we say we have a ton to talk about today. We're going to be a little lighter on topics. We do have some good content for Utah State football, and we can continue discussions on Utah State basketball as well. If you want, I know we have a couple of interviews, Eric, you got to do with Spencer Petras and Will Holmes. So that will be a lot of our content for the first hour. Of course, there's other stuff with the Utah Jazz, the NBA, kind of a bunch of little topics in the NBA that we can talk about. Utah Jazz playing yesterday, Will Hardy going viral, kind of for a second time for post-game comments. You had one last year, and once again kind of doing it this year, or yesterday. Also, Sam Merrill and Neemias Queta played against each other for, I want to say, the second time, I think, where they were on the court at the same time on their respective NBA teams. The Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Boston Celtics yesterday, and the Celtics handed the Cavaliers their first loss of the season.
Yeah.
So
it was a close game. It was a fun, close contest.
Yeah, kind of the one team that the Cavaliers are definitely going to be competing with, for a potential NBA title, the reigning NBA champs, and that's the team they lose to. So maybe a bit rough there. I don't know if they'd played him elsewhere in their, 15-0 start. Starting 15-0, obviously nothing to sneeze at whatsoever. So we can talk about that matchup. We'll get to that more in the second hour, talking about the NBA, but kind of kicking things off with football, continuing that discussion and this matchup. And Eric, I know we didn't get to talk a ton of football with you because I believe we led with basketball yesterday, and then you had to go to football practice, and so we did a little preview. Heard a little bit of what Nate Dreiling had to say on Monday, but didn't get to a ton of that. And so just kind of looking to preview a little bit more with San Diego State, with this matchup, and what the likelihood is, now that the Aggies have gotten a win and it's maybe propelled them forward. It's okay, hey, now this team has maybe figured things out. How likely is it that they can get a win over San Diego State on senior night, after a big, kind of feel like you finally got over the hump emotionally with this win, perhaps even more so than Wyoming, because it was a very impressive win over Wyoming.
Right.
So, and it's a better team than Wyoming that the Aggies got to win over. So what's that likelihood that the Aggies are able to get this win over the Aztecs, who are, I don't know, weirdly enough, I think on paper they may be worse than Hawaii, but I don't know. I feel less confident even after seeing the Aggies get this win. There are things about San Diego State that I feel like worry me because I don't know if the Aggies can exploit some of the weaknesses of San Diego State in the same way that they were able to exploit the weaknesses of Hawaii.
Right. Yeah. And a big part of that is going to be, and I thought it was interesting what Coach Dreiling said. Hawaii doesn't really want to run the ball.
Yeah.
But San Diego State does. Now, Marquez Cooper, he's a running back for the Aztecs. we've really been fawning over Faison for the type of year he's had. Certainly, what's going on up in Boise with their running attack is very solid. But this is not a running attack to be overlooked here at San Diego State. Cooper has carried the ball like 70 more times than Faison has. He's already eclipsed the 1,000-yard rushing mark. But I mean, the gap between them in yards isn't really that much, but the amount of the volume of carries for Cooper is significant. And so this is a team that is committed to the run, and he's an experienced running back. He's been around for a while. San Diego State does have a freshman quarterback who's prone to some mistakes, but he's been getting better as the season goes on. We heard comments from Coach Dreiling. Coach Lewis from San Diego State also commented on that this week. But it's what they've tried to do is they've tried to surround their young, inexperienced quarterback with a lot of other experienced guys. So trying to make San Diego State one-dimensional will be more challenging than it was for Hawaii.
Yeah, it's because, San Diego State's not going to give up on that rushing attack. And it is interesting looking at San Diego State's running back at Marquez Cooper, where I suddenly wasn't 100% sure about his name. I was like, I'm 99% sure. I was right, but I wanted to be sure. You mentioned the volume. The efficiency isn't really there as much. This is a guy who's averaging 4.3 yards per carry, which is decent, but it's not like this really, really good rate of, yards per carry, especially in college football, where your better running backs tend to be, even solid, workhorse running backs will average in the 5 yards per carry. And so the fact that he's not like super efficient is maybe a concern, but the fact that he's getting 106 yards per game, like he's productive at the very least. You can maybe bag a little bit on his efficiency, and I do mean just a little bit. But you cannot, argue against his production. And the Aggies have basically one game where they've kind of shown they can stop the run, and it was against a team that just refused to run the ball to begin with.
Right.
And so that's the trick for this game is you have a team that will run the ball no matter if they're running it well or not. If they're not running the ball well, they're still going to hand it off. And can the Aggies, for 60 minutes, stop a team that is definitely willing to run? Or, we're talking about making a team one-dimensional. What if they make them one-dimensional in running the ball? And you just be able to stack the box.
Right. Yeah, and that's and that's a bit of a concern because Utah State has shown with opponents who are committed to the run, the Aggies just can't stop them, and they struggle. Even Wyoming, which wasn't great at running the ball, they knew they could run on Utah State, and they had their best running game of the year against the Aggies. And they where they struggled was in their passing game. So, yeah, you're right. If San Diego State says, okay, we'll be one-dimensional, and it's going to be that we're going to run the ball down your throat a bunch of times until you prove you can stop us. But Danny O'Neal, he's not the best quarterback the Aggies have faced this year, but he's efficient enough. 11 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions on the season. He's been sacked 20 times. But getting back to Marquez Cooper, here's a guy he's not that big. He's only like 5'8", 200 pounds. So he's not big. He's strong for his size.
Yeah, 200 pounds at 5'8" is a little bit bulky there.
Thick. But he's not really that big. So
I wouldn't be knocking that too much because we've seen running backs at Utah State that are 5'8" and run with power.
True, it's kind of like a Robert Briggs or even like a D-Train. That archetype.
Yeah, they'd be 5'8", and you're like, oh, he's small, therefore he's just he's a speed back. It's like, no, he just ran you over. Congratulations.
But I guess the point that's kind of circling back to here is that the Utah State linebackers are a little bit undersized, but they should be able to contend with Cooper. They won't, and they shouldn't be overmatched, as we've seen sometimes in some occasions where they have been overmatched against a bigger power running back.
Yeah. Well, and the biggest key with Utah State is just not letting teams get that outside edge, because they have just really struggled in setting the edge, covering the outside gaps. Essentially, they've had their moments not being able to stop the run in between the tackles, but they've generally been okay at filling those gaps. But once they go off tackle, off the left tackle, off the right tackle, and you get the right little, they have the tackle crash in and just try and push the defensive line away, and then you have a kick out block on the first linebacker, and suddenly the running back is running free, and the only guys to stop him are like the safeties and corners. That's what the Aggies need to prevent. They need guys who are there to set those edges and keep those running backs contained, keep them inside the tackles, and especially if they're able to stack the box, like that'll help them accomplish that goal. If they force them to be one-dimensional running, then you put 8 guys pretty well near the box, and you make sure that they don't have any gaps to run through, where every gap has like 1 or 2 people able to cover that. If they're able to do that, I have every expectation they can at least slow down the run game enough that it won't be a problem. Maybe San Diego State gains 180, 200 yards on the ground, or does what Wyoming did, getting all those yards on the ground, but it didn't really help them all that much, because there weren't enough explosive plays and there wasn't a passing game to help them get touchdowns. Wyoming got a bunch of longer drives because they could run the ball. Like if you can run the ball and get 200 plus yards, you will have long extended drives. Can you finish a drive? Well, in that case, you tend to need explosive plays to make drives shorter, so to speak, like fewer plays, fewer chances to mess up and get behind the sticks. And then a good passing game to just kind of balance things out. Wyoming couldn't do that, so they ended up with 25 points. And if Utah State can pull out that same kind of defensive performance, even if it looks ugly in the yards and yards per attempt, because Wyoming had like 6.6 yards per attempt against the Aggies, that looks pretty ugly, but it was a good enough defensive performance to get you the win. And I think that's more of what you may see if the Aggies get a win here. You're not going to see them holding San Diego State to 10 points and just shutting them down completely. But I think a winning day for Utah State looks a lot more like the Wyoming game than it would the Hawaii game.
Well, you'd mentioned a key term there, and this was one that has been on Sean Lewis's mind as well. Explosives, explosive plays. So those are passing plays of 20 yards or more, running plays of 15 yards or more. Those are big chunk plays. They're momentum plays. They get you down the field quickly, and that's one of the things that I track during a game. If you end up with more explosives than your opponent, it's one of the key indicators that you're probably going to end up winning the game or having won the game if you have more explosive plays. San Diego State has struggled with explosive plays. They do not tend to operate well if they have to go a lot of plays and march down the field. They want to get them in chunks, but they haven't been able to. Sean Lewis's offensive philosophy kind of calls on that, but they haven't been able to execute that. And that's part of the reason why this team has struggled to score more than 3 touchdowns a game over the last month. And their scoring is down. They really haven't. I mean, their highest scoring outputs were 27-point wins in games against Wyoming and Hawaii.
Yeah, 2 of the teams that aren't looking as good in hindsight.
No.
I mean, Wyoming wasn't even good at the time. But yeah, you look at their last 4 games, 26, 24, 16, 20. Like their last 2 games, they've scored 36 points total. And so, yeah, this is an offense that there are clear weaknesses. There are clear things that they are not good at. But, of course, Utah State's defense has a lot of weaknesses and things that they've not been good at for most of the season, last week being a key exception. So it'll be interesting to see which team is able to gain that advantage. Either San Diego State's offense finding a way to have a bit of a breakout game, or Utah State's defense, I guess in this case, would be continuing what they seemed to have found last week with being able to stop the run a little bit better, causing serious problems for an opposing pass game, just getting tons of QB pressure, doing really well with their coverages and forcing 5 interceptions. And yeah, when you got a young quarterback in Danny O'Neil, that's something you can potentially take advantage of. Nate Dreiling was asked about O'Neil, who's been starting for San Diego State this season, just kind of his development as a quarterback.
If you compare the first couple games with the last 4 or 5, it's not even the same player back there, and that's what you expect with a true freshman, right? He's got, I think, 18 touchdowns and just a handful of interceptions. It gets the ball out on time. They do a good job in the RPO game to give him easy completions, easy yards to help stay ahead of the sticks and keep him out of 3rd and long. And he's athletic enough to take off running, so he's a guy that's going to be an absolute stud here in the future, and they've kind of gone through the growing pains with him, and I think they're already on the other side, which is crazy for a true freshman. So we know we'll have our hands full with him. He looks like he's playing with a lot of confidence right now.
And now I will say this, his improvement I haven't had a chance to really watch film on Danny O'Neil, so I can't really comment too much, but his stats don't paint the, brightest picture of that playing better lately than he was earlier, because he had 4 200+ yard games in his first 5 outings. He's not hit 200 yards in his last 4 games, and he's at an even 5-5 touchdown to interception ratio. So, there's some bright spots, I'm sure. And again, this is something where I have to go watch film, because the stats aren't always going to tell the complete story of a quarterback, but it's at least part of the story. And I think what it shows is that Danny O'Neil isn't necessarily leading San Diego State's offense, and that, he's going to be the driving force, which you can see, typically when quarterbacks are just starting, especially when they're freshmen, if they haven't really come into their own, that's where you throw out the term game manager. It's like, okay, you're not leading the team in offense. You aren't the reason behind the offense being great, but if you perform, you perform. It was like what Cooper Legas was doing at Utah State. Rarely was he like the driving force, the reason that the offense was just way overperforming, but he would produce, and sometimes he'd produce pretty dang well. And Danny O'Neil seems to be in a similar position where he's just trying to lead the offense as best he can, although not superb results so far.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his body of work over the last 4 games, over the last month, it's a bit of an up and down as far as, completions and attempts. 59% completion and 63% against New Mexico in a close loss. 41 attempts in that game.
Yeah, I'll give him this. Like if we're isolating his last 4 games, 3 of those opponents are Washington State, Boise State, and UNLV.
Yeah, so that's a tough gauntlet. I mean, Utah State knows about going through one tough opponent after another, but it's not.
But even against like not as good opponents, like his season high is 254 yards. That was against Wyoming, and he also had 1 touchdown, 1 interception, completed under 60% of his passes. He had 224 against Hawaii. Did complete 72% of his passes, but not a very high, yards per attempt. Again, only 224 and 33 attempts, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. So I think if there's a team that you can say, hey, look, we may not be as afraid of them passing, maybe this is it. It doesn't mean you can just abandon that, because, that's when a freshman can maybe get hot and suddenly have, if you give any quarterback wide open passes, they're going to make those. So don't just completely ignore them. But just as Hawaii's run game wasn't a huge threat, San Diego State's passing game isn't a huge threat. And so if there's one aspect that you can try and shut down and make them one-dimensional, I think they can target this pass defense. And, they showed last week that they shut down a pretty good pass offense in Hawaii.
Right. Yeah. That's so the onus there is on that secondary, the cornerbacks, the safeties. Take away those windows, make him have to go through more of his progressions, make him uncomfortable that it's not there. So they have to go to the run game. get an interception or two, right? You get it in his head that he's not efficient in a cold weather or colder weather situation with altitude in Logan, right? Just little things to get in his head to play with him a little bit, just to get him a little bit off where he thinks he needs to hand the ball off, because that's where the offense is going to run.
Yeah, and it's, also getting him to where he feels like he needs to force throws. Like when you get quick pressure on him, he's like, I need to get the ball out, and my first read is this slant route, and I got to get the ball out or I'm going to get sacked. And he throws that, and all of a sudden, Ike Larson, Jordan Vince, and Vontae Dickerson are playing that slant route, and it's an interception, maybe even a pick six. They had one of their interceptions in Hawaii was just like that. They brought pressure. They knew what the route was. They played that short route, knew the quarterback wouldn't have time to throw any longer routes. So they sold out on the short ones and turned out to be an interception for Jordan Vincent.
Yeah, we knew that Hawaii had a history of struggling to protect their quarterback. They'd given up a lot of sacks over the course of the season. They had offensive linemen kind of in and out of the lineup. San Diego State's a little better. Of course, they've got a little bit more committed run game, so the opportunities aren't as prevalent.
Yeah, they're just not throwing the ball nearly as much.
No. But they, too, have had some issues with their offensive line, trying to settle who they want there and moving guys at different positions. And as mentioned, he has been sacked 20 times on the season. So there are opportunities to get after it and try to bring him down. He's not really a running threat. He's not necessarily a true dual threat quarterback like we've seen some. But he can scramble a little bit, but that's not in his nature. It's not high on his list of what he wants to do when he's in the pocket.
Well, he's been about a coin flip to have positive rushing yards this season.
Right.
Slightly better than a coin flip, I'll say.
Yeah, when you get sacked that many times, that has an effect on it. But still, he's not, when you look at the film on him, it's not like he's immobile, but rushing at the quarterback position is not really what Sean Lewis wants of his young quarterback yet. Yeah, so you're not really going to see him. You're going to see him run because he's an athlete, and athletes are capable of moving. Even Tom Brady could run a little bit, and Peyton Manning. But yeah, you're not spending too much time wringing your hands over, him leaving the pocket and gaining bulk yards. He's not going to do that. Like I said, you got a pretty good chance of holding him under 10 yards. Right. So keep things in front, and in front of you, and there's going to be an effort to run the ball. Now, Marquez Cooper, he is the running game. Yeah. There really isn't anyone after him. See, who is I was looking at who the next, second. Yeah, the next closest running back has 75 yards on the year. Yeah. Danny O'Neal is your second highest player in terms of rush attempts, and I'm pretty sure half of those are just his sacks. Yes. He's at 54. Nobody else is at triple digits in rush attempts. And yeah, as you said, they're Cam Davis, number 2 in yards, and he has 13 attempts. So that's they have one guy that they hand the ball off to, and that's that. Some guy might get a carry at some point the rest of the game, but it is going to be Marquez Cooper. Absolute bell cow back there. So let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion with Utah State football, as well as shift into a couple of interviews. Eric, you had a chance to talk with Spencer Petras, Will Holmes, yesterday after Utah State's practice. So we'll hear that as well here on the Full Court Press.
This Thanksgiving, Adams Wealth Advisors is grateful for you, our clients, and our community. It's our sincerest wish that as you host or travel to meet loved ones, safety follows you wherever you may be. Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help you secure your financial future so you can focus on what truly matters. Happy Thanksgiving from Adams Wealth Advisors, building your legacy and protecting your peace of mind. Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com to learn more.
'Tis the season, and if you're getting engaged, bring that special someone to S.E. Needham Jewelers. You'll love our extensive selection of beautiful engagement rings. Also, you'll select a diamond from Utah's largest selection of loose diamonds. You'll find a unique ring at an affordable price with diamonds direct from Antwerp, Belgium at internet pricing. It just doesn't get better. And you may also take advantage of our 12-month interest-free financing. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice, and I'm here with Barbara. Barbara, how did you become acquainted with Primrose?
I had been trying to get another company to come and help me, and I had waited about 2 weeks, and I needed a bath. My neighbor suggested that she would make a few phone calls, and that very afternoon, Mark Stokes was sitting in my front room, and he said, "What do you need?"
Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
Fall is here. Winter is on the way. And while the fields may be quiet, the work never stops. Cash Equipment is your partner through every season, offering Kubota, AGCO, and Massey Ferguson machinery. Right now is the perfect time to service your equipment, and the expert service team at Cash Equipment is here to help. Whether you're maintaining land, handling livestock, or already preparing for spring, Cash Equipment is here all year to support you with reliable parts and equipment. In Hyde Park and online at cashequipment.com.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
It's the Full Court Press, and based on the song, it is high noon. Me and Eric about to go 20 paces.
The House of the Morning Sun.
Yeah, House of the Rising Sun.
Rising Sun. There,
as opposed to there being a house in New Orleans.
That's a remake, of course.
Yeah. So, is that the same band that did that, or is that a different one that I forget the actual name of the song, but it begins like "There is a house in New Orleans" or New Orleans.
New Orleans. That is the song.
New Orleans. Yeah. That was weird how they said there's a house in New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Okay. But anyway, setting aside topics about real estate in Louisiana, let's talk college football. Actually, first, let's go to our Full Court Press text line, 9315, with a couple of texts early on at the start of the show saying, offering a correction first, saying, get it right, San Diego is not a state. Go Aggies, and please be more optimistic. We'll be just fine. And saying, remember, I heard fun on offense equals wins on yesterday's show. That was a lot more about basketball, but I think similar applies to football. I mean, any game that finishes like 49-45 is just called an instant classic, as opposed to, like a 10-6 game, which is called a snooze fest. Because I guess offense is more exciting. But hey, that's sports. We like to see things happen. We like to see the score go up.
If there's like great defensive plays, that it's a defensive battle, that can be exciting. But you also expect your offense to do some things too.
Yeah, it can be tense, and that's kind of the key is finding that excitement in the tension, because that's a lot of what makes soccer really good. It's what a lot of people kind of miss out on soccer. They say, "Oh, it's boring because it finishes 1-0 or 2-1." It's like, okay, but there's that tension. It's that build up and release as the ball goes back and forth, and you can have that same effect in basically any sport, where there may not be scoring plays happening, but there can be this tension as you go back and forth. Heck, one of the most exciting couple of minutes of basketball I've ever watched was in the 2016 NBA Finals. It was that game where LeBron James had the block on Iguodala and Kyrie Irving hits that three-pointer a few plays later. But that was like a 2.5 or 3 minute span where nobody scored, and it was like I forget. I think Cleveland was like slightly ahead, or maybe it was tied. The score was obviously really close. And the thing is that block on Iguodala kept the score tied, and then tied or close. Again, I can't remember exactly. And then Kyrie Irving's three-pointer, I think it was still like 2 plays later, because I don't think Cleveland scored right after that block. But it broke a streak of like nobody scoring for like 3 whole minutes.
Right.
But it was exciting basketball, even though there was no scoring plays, and it built up the tension to what was ultimately a really good offensive play by Kyrie Irving. So,
yeah. I mean, those are. You just hope that the team that you're rooting for is.
Yeah, you hope they come out on top.
The one that's
because like when I watched the Patriots,
doing it right.
When I watched the Patriots and Rams, and that's in the Super Bowl in 20 was it 21 or 2019? Or no, it was like 2018, 2019. The 10-3 or 13-3 or whatever the score was, or everyone just called it one of the worst Super Bowls. But for me, it was great in the end, but it was nerve-wracking the entire time.
Right. Like defense making plays is better than just offense being inept.
Yeah.
And so if it's a low-scoring game, was it a great defensive battle, or was it just two offenses that were just crap? So there's a very big difference.
Yeah, there is definitely
we've seen
difference.
some great defensive battles before.
Yeah, and I've seen some basketball games where it's like, these two teams are just terrible. And then there's ones where it's like, oh, these two teams are good on defense.
Right.
And those ones can definitely be exciting, when you get them, and so they can be quite a treat. But let's actually...
Well, let me do this.
You got one?
There's a text that's come in on our Full Court Press text line, 2305, asking, where is our Aggie football team currently ranked? So I track this every week. It's just I don't know why. Just after the first few weeks, it was like, this isn't really going to matter. But I've been doing it every week.
Yeah.
Just perusing all the different sites that rank college football 1 through 134. And what has been interesting lately is to see Utah State move up in these rankings. They're one of the biggest movers in the K-Ford rankings this last week.
Yeah, that's nice.
Moved up 6 spots in that ranking. But Utah State, when you look at it across, there's various different sites that I look at. The Athletic, USA Today. So those are just kind of humans. Just
who is it? Like a team? Is it one guy? Is it?
For the Athletic, I think it's one guy. I'm not sure for USA Today. I think it's one guy for USA Today. But then there's some that use more metrics.
Yeah, it's often like one guy, but it's that guy's, advanced metric.
Right. And so look at ESPN SP+, ESPN FPI, and K-Ford. So those are a little bit more metrics-based for rankings. But anyways, I throw them all in a pot and figure out the averages. So right now, Utah State is 117. And there was a good chunk of the season where they were in
the 120s,
high 120s. And so they've been slowly notching up a little bit. Currently, Wyoming has slipped to the very bottom. It was Air Force for most of the season. And suddenly Air Force has figured out how to play offense.
Yeah, suddenly they know how football works again.
Yes. But there's a couple teams that are like really close to each other. Like Nevada and Hawaii are at 108, 108.4 versus 108.6. And then the two that are exactly tied, San Jose, 83.8, and Fresno State also 83.8, with Colorado State close behind at 84.8. So anyway, that's kind of where things are for the Mountain West. Boise State still getting a lot of attention and a lot of love, deservedly so. UNLV has moved up.
Is Boise State still in like the 20s, or did they make their way into the teens?
They are at 19.6 on the average.
Yeah, it's really hard for teams to get like on average in the teens in these kind of rankings. Like I know in the college football playoff committee, they're 12.
Yeah.
But it's hard for these metrics the strength of schedule has a big impact there. And so they tend to really underrate a lot of the G5 teams.
Yeah, and I've been keeping track of Washington State and Oregon State, future conference opponents. The Cougars were up there. They were climbing. They got into the top 25, and then they lost, and they got punished for that.
Yeah, they came crashing to
punished hard.
That reminded me, like I saw something earlier today where there was some column about why BYU fell 8 spots in the playoff rankings, and what was the reasoning for the committee to drop them that far? And it's like, there's one really, really good reason.
A team that hasn't won 4 games all year came to your house and beat you.
So that's a reason.
That's a really good reason.
It's like you lose a game to
a bad team.
To a bad team that drops you in the ranking. I know I went on my rankings rant in the last show about if you're like the number 2 team and you lose to the number 1 team, why do you drop to like number 5? And it's like that doesn't make any sense. But if you're a ranked team and you lose, if you're like the number 6 team and you lose to an unranked team with a losing record, yeah, you're gonna fall.
You're gonna fall.
That's just how that works.
Yes,
typically. But let's shift over to some of the interviews you did, Eric. after practice yesterday, starting with the quarterback, Spencer Petras, who's been having a pretty solid season for the Aggies. Not as like crazy, like 300-400 yard passing games as he had kind of initially, at least after the Temple game, but still being pretty effective as a quarterback and trying to lead this team to a couple more wins late in the season.
Spencer Petras getting ready for San Diego State, but and it's senior day. Before we talk about that, I just want to ask you just about the culmination of your season here at Utah State. I know it's not over. You still got a couple more games, but just how the season has progressed for you being here in Logan.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like almost every football season. There's been ups and downs, and, you come to expect that. But I've been just most proud of our team. I think we've come together and kind of stayed true to our process throughout the ups and the downs. I think especially this past weekend, the Hawaii game, we kind of – first time we really put it all together, all three phases, and after the year we've had, a lot of teams might have quit or maybe not have continued to improve like we have. So I'm really proud of our team, and just hope we can keep it going.
Some nice honors for yourself, an invitation to the Hula Bowl. It looks like you're going to have your teammate Rasul Faison go with you. Just comment on that recognition and that honor for the type of year you've had.
Yeah, I mean it's such a blessing. I'm very honored, and I can't wait to get out there. Happy for Rasul as well, like you mentioned, and should be fun, and obviously it's always great to be recognized. And the biggest thing I think is just anytime a quarterback gets any kind of recognition, it is absolutely a offensive unit recognition, because I'm just a small piece of the cog, or I'm a cog in the wheel of the offense, and without the other 10 guys, quarterback can't do anything. So just really honored and feel very lucky.
You were out of football for a couple of seasons with various injuries, and you've been able to have a pretty solid season this year. Just how would you kind of evaluate your growth as a player this year in this offensive system, and just what you've been able to accomplish individually? I know you just talk about it as a unit. There's a lot of guys around you to help get there, but how's it been for you just kind of developing and growing into the season you've had?
Yeah, I'm just happy I stuck with it. Obviously a lot of guys deal with injuries. Mine was very serious and to my throwing arm, which is never good for a quarterback, obviously. And there was a lot of times last year where I didn't think I'd play again, and thought I'd just kind of move on and get a job. And I'm just really happy that I didn't do that, and that I decided to play again, and just feel so lucky I got to land in a spot like this where the system fits me perfectly, and we've got great players, and it's been a really fun year.
It's been about a month now since Jalen Royals went down with his injury. Brock Lane has been out. I know you've already had kind of chemistry with the other players, but that's been growing and improving. And last Saturday against Hawaii, probably the most complete game all around that we've seen out of this offense. Just maybe comment on this, how your chemistry is growing with some of those other guys on the offense.
Yeah. I think it's grown every week, and there's still room to continue to grow these last two games. But it's been really cool just for me as a veteran guy that's been around, just to get to watch some of the growth that our guys have made, especially given the players you mentioned being out. Like Otto's my favorite example, just a guy that's got all the talent in the world, and it's just been about how he can just put it all together, and every single week he's improved. And I could say that about every single offensive skills player we have. Kyrie's has improved every week, Grant, Jack, everyone, but Josh Sturzer, Will Money, like all these guys that maybe played a lesser role when Jalen was out there, but seeing everyone kind of step up once we lost Jalen and Brock has been just super cool.
On Saturday, San Diego State's the opponent. What do you see out of them defensively so far?
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, they have an identity, and they stay true to that, which to me usually is a mark of a good defense. They know who they are. They kind of play what they play, and they play it well, and they play hard, and it's good. They're going to make us earn it. That was kind of the through the first couple of days of prep is just a lot of it is we're going to have to be on our game up and down the field to move the ball and score against these guys.
Also, it's senior day. What's that mean to you? Just kind of culmination of your career, college football playing career, at least not totally done, but your last home game.
Yeah, senior day is always a bittersweet day. I got to experience one at the University of Iowa, and that was a same thing, bittersweet. It's great to see the guys that have given their all for 4 or 5, I guess in my case 7 years. Be recognized for that. But also I think that the most important thing is going out there and getting a win for the seniors. Not letting the moment distract anybody. It's obviously you get to see your family and you're honored, and that's great. But then once that's over, it's a real quick lock back in for the game. And I'm sure I speak for everyone that the one thing we want to give to our seniors, myself included, is a win this weekend.
Well, best of luck on Saturday, and we'll see how things go as San Diego State comes to town at 1:30.
Thank you very much.
Utah State quarterback Spencer Petras yesterday after practice.
Before? Why not?
Yeah, it's just mixing syllables and vowels. Might as well just roll with it. A big day for Spencer Petras. A fairly common thing to happen now for players is to have multiple senior days where they're honored. They're honored for a senior day, and then a couple weeks later they're in the transfer portal to go play another senior season, basically.
Blanket or whatever else they give the seniors.
I think it was I want to say it was a player on Fresno State last year. He might have transferred somewhere else, but there was somebody who had basically done 3 different senior days.
I think I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, it was one of the basketball players. I can't remember if it was at Fresno State where he was at last year, but he had been at Fresno State at some point. It was one of their guards, and I suddenly can't remember his name. But it was at 3 different senior days. It's like, come on. And Utah State's had several players that they honored as seniors who then went on to go play somewhere else. So it's just kind of weird they have a senior. And then you have a guy who comes in for 1 year and he's there on senior night, and it's hey, he's a senior, but he's been here for 1 year. It's it just kind of feels weird. But you keep the tradition going, obviously, because you want to honor the seniors, guys who finish out their collegiate career, even if it's 2 or 3 different times you have a senior day celebration.
Right.
But obviously for Spencer Petras, big game for him, because obviously this is the last time. He's not Cam Rising where he's going to get an 8th season. This is his last hurrah, and he's done fairly well this season. Obviously some games that he'd like to have back, but he's going to end the year with a pretty respectable stat line, even with some of the games he missed. He's already got a career high by 400 yards in season passing yards. He's long since surpassed his career high in single season passing touchdowns. He'll have his best completion percentage. Just across the board, he's having overall his best game, and he's still got 2 to play.
Yeah, he's having a great career. Or a great season, excuse me, that highlights his career. This will be the as far as just raw stats, this will go down as his best season.
Yeah, he's probably going to end
by
up with
a pretty good margin.
Yeah, his previous best was 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He'll finish the year probably around 2,700 yards, 20-ish touchdowns, and somewhere between 10 and 12 interceptions. That's probably going to be his season total. That's a very respectable total.
Yeah.
So could have been a 3,000-yard quarterback if he didn't miss a couple of games, but that's just the way it happens sometimes.
Yeah, look, I've got a lot of respect for Spencer Petras. Here's a guy who hurt his throwing arm. I know he's had knee injuries, had some ankle injuries. Here's a guy who could have just called it a day. But he didn't. He found a way to stay with it and keep playing football, found a place that would take a chance on him. And when he got here, when he came to Logan, it was evident very early on, this was the best throwing quarterback in the mix. And Utah State didn't push other guys out to bring him in. They brought him in and said, well, we'll see what he's going to be like. We're not sure. But based on how they want to run the offense, he was the best option. And unfortunately, Cooper Legas, McKay Hillstead, they had the options to stick around. They weren't asked to leave. They were anticipating that they would be here. Certainly more Cooper than McKay.
Well, they were expecting Cooper to leave once he lost the job.
Yeah, but they
McKay
weren't
was
surprised.
the one that was McKay was the one that caught Blake off guard.
Yeah, and so because he could have easily redshirted or stuck around, he still had a lot of years to go. He would be the guy eventually. But Spencer Petras, I know there's been times where fans have been calling for his backup, and I just have to shake my head. Is he a perfect quarterback? No. But to run the offense the way that it's best built with the scheme that they have and the players that they have, he's been the best guy for that job.
All right, we got to take another break here. Let's go ahead and take that. We'll hear from Will Holmes coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Is Medicare and Social Security on your mind? Now is the time to learn about Medicare and Social Security. This is Rusty Allen with LSS Insurance. Be our guest November 21st, the third Thursday at 7 p.m. Come see us at our office by the North Walmart. Call 752-9493. The seminar is free. The information is valuable. Call 752-9493 to RSVP. Learn about your Medicare options the third Thursday, November 21st.
This Thanksgiving, join us at Elements Restaurant for a truly classic dining experience. Elements chefs are crafting a magnificent Thanksgiving dinner that includes succulent turkey with sage gravy, creamy whipped garlic potatoes and sweet potatoes, savory cornbread dressing, green beans, and fresh baked warm rolls. And don't forget the mouthwatering desserts, including pumpkin and pecan pie. Why slave away in the kitchen when you can relax with your loved ones and savor the flavors of the season at Elements Restaurant? Open Thanksgiving from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Call now for reservations, 752-5171.
Advanced Heating and AC and Advanced Fireplace and Stove want to help local families this year with a food drive. Drop off your canned foods at Advanced Heating across from DI or hand them to one of their technicians when they come to your home for a repair. And to say thank you, the Advanced team will match all your contributions and offer a 20% discount on your next service call. Find out more at AdvancedFireplaceandStove.com or call 752-7272. Donate to Advanced Fireplace and Stove's canned food drive for local families.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
It's time. Get your holiday orders in now to the Logo Shop. Want to give your employees company jackets or beanies with your logo on it? They can do that at the Logo Shop. Water bottles, earbuds and speakers, backpacks and bags, flashlights and flash drives. The Logo Shop can put your logo on just about anything. Business gifts for vendors, employees, and customers. Call the Logo Shop for more ideas and a free quote.
The Logo Shop. Logo stuff. The Logo Shop.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wees T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Snow, ice, and cold weather are all hard on your wiper blades. Napa features long-lasting silicone wiper blades from Rain-X, Trico. Stop in for a new set, and they'll even help them install it for you. You get house diesel treatment, case lot price of $12 for a half-gallon jug. Pick up a 50-pound bag of Blue Heat ice melt for just $10. Be prepared for cold weather and snow with help from your friends at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts locations. Eric was going to play the Will Holmes interview, but I think we are just a little tight on time before we hit.
We can push into the next hour.
Yeah, I think we'll push into the next hour. It is a great interview. I want to make sure that we get to it.
That's called a tease.
Yeah, it's a tease.
We want to keep you around.
Yeah, we professionals in the business.
Keep listening.
Get a chance to hear that great story. I know, kind of keeping with football, I know we were kind of scanning some bowl projections. Kind of interesting combined with the college football playoff rankings. We looked at those a little bit yesterday. Boise State, as things stand right now, would be the 4 seed. They'd get a first round bye, which would give them the chance to basically play likely a top 3 team in the country. The loser of the Big Ten championship game. Because, that team would end up facing the number 12 seed. Of course, no matter what Boise State does, they're likely going to play that top 3 team. Because they're going to face the loser of the Big Ten title game, who's going to either be the 5 seed facing maybe Boise State's the 12 seed, or that's likely their second round opponent if Boise gets the 4 seed. So kind of a wonderful situation there for the Broncos. But obviously, they'd absolutely be thrilled to make the playoffs anyway. That's something I don't know if we... So it's definitely a goal for G5 teams to make it, but for them to be this good in year one of the playoff, Broncos couldn't have timed this kind of season any better.
No. So at the quarterfinals, are you still hosting or are you going to a venue?
I actually don't know.
Because the first round you host if you're the higher seed. But I'm not sure about the quarterfinals. I just thought, honestly, it seems like something that's so far out there that's irrelevant to our world here.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about
bowl projections. Put that much into it. And then it's like, wait a minute. There's a team from the Mountain West that's going to be involved in this. I've got to start to become a little bit more educated on how it works.
And the pressure's on for Boise, and they've had a couple moments where they've slipped and slid a little bit, but they've stuck the landing pretty much every time in all their games. Had that close one against Nevada. It was a bit shaky against San Jose State, but they pulled that one out and even got some style points in the end, so they didn't fall in the rankings.
Yep.
So it'll certainly be interesting to see Boise State and how they represent the conference and the future Pac-12. We're talking for the good of the conference.
Now, that's another question I don't know is how the money works with this.
Oh, it's going to stay in the Mountain West.
Because Boise State still has another year as a Mountain West member.
Yeah.
So,
I imagine some of that
money will come to the Mountain West.
Yeah, because
Utah State could benefit a little bit.
Yeah. They're all going to benefit a little bit, and same with whatever NCAA tournament credits or whatever they earn this year. That'll be, something that they get a slight benefit from, and then they'll go to the Pac-12. And I guess maybe for a year there just won't be any tournament credits or bowl payout stuff. Because everyone's coming in and nobody's hanging on to what they had before. Unless Oregon State and Washington State earn some. But it's for a whole year, you're going to get nothing.
Yeah.
So bit of a financial hump you got to get over.
Yeah.
Although hopefully the media deal ends up being all right. And of course, breaking news as of yesterday and also 3 weeks ago.
A month ago.
The Pac-12 bringing in Octagon.
It's official.
Octagon is shaped with 8 sides, getting one more team to make it 8.
Ooh,
is that a sign?
That's high order of business for them. They got to find another team.
Insert Illuminati sound burst. Illuminati intensifies. So, yeah, looking at the bowl projection for the Mountain West, obviously Utah State not in there. Hawaii actually getting knocked out of bowl eligibility with their loss to Utah State. That took them from 4-6 to 4-7. Some other teams on the fringe. But looking around, it's a lot of the same bowls that you're seeing teams projecting. Like I was scanning through a couple of them. Boise is, universally projected to be in the playoff right now. And so that actually puts UNLV as in, I guess, shade thrown at Colorado State, because Colorado State's currently in line to be in the Mountain West title game. If they beat Fresno State, and then they have, I think, is it Hawaii that they have last? Or I suddenly can't remember who called. Oh, no, it's Utah State.
State. Yeah.
How do I not know that? the Utah State season finale is against Colorado State. I was like, who does Colorado State play in their last week? It's like, oh, yeah, the team that I cover. So Colorado State, like, they're projected to be in like the Arizona Bowl, the Hawaii Bowl, decent bowl games, but they put UNLV in the LA Bowl. They say, oh, UNLV is going to make it there, because they say, oh, UNLV is just the second best team, and so you throw them in there. But Colorado State, that sneaky good team that may sneak their way into the Mountain West title game, despite being pretty universally seen as the third best team in the conference. And I'll tell you what, the whole these big conferences and getting rid of divisions, like there was some positives in there, but I feel like you're still going to end up with teams that are unhappy that they don't make the title game because of things that are out of their control. I shouldn't say out of their control, because UNLV, if they beat Boise State, they get in the title game.
Yeah, it was in there. Yeah.
So
they still played the games.
So sort of out of their control. But anyway, that's going to do it for us here in the first hour. We'll have Will Holmes, that interview coming up next in the first segment.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Coming into this weekend, the Chiefs were a perfect 9-0, had won 15 consecutive games going back to last season. But after traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills, Kansas City's historical run is now history. Now, there's no doubt the team is disappointed about the loss, but when you look at recent history, the Chiefs' slip-up may actually benefit this team in the long run. The play on the field was far from what we've seen in the standings. 7 of Kansas City's 9 wins have ended as a one-possession game. A win is a win. But when you're expecting to make a push for a three-peat, that's not really the dominance we have in mind. But similarly to Chuck Daly throwing the Dream Team's first scrimmage, this team knows they are far from invincible. You have to execute in order to win. And with the team now nursing their wounds from this weekend, maybe this was the kick in the butt that the Chiefs needed in order to get over the top. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Hey, it's Dan Patrick. If you're a listener of the show, you probably know this by now. We're a big fan of Keeper's Heart whiskey. Keeper's Heart, the first whiskey to offer a unique blend of Irish and American whiskeys. Nobody's ever done it at this level. The results are incredible. Smooth enough to enjoy neat, or enough character to make amazing cocktails. Don't take it from me. I'm just an Irish-American guy who enjoys a drink or two. The whiskey experts agree. Crafted by one of the biggest names in the world of whiskey, Brian Nation, Keeper's Heart is one of the most awarded new whiskeys of the last couple of years, winning over 150 awards to date, including Best Irish Whiskey in the World, and winning a double gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. You got to try it. It's available now in the best liquor stores. Look for it on the Irish whiskey shelf, or you can buy it online. KeepersHeartWhiskey.com. KeepersHeartWhiskey.com. It's a bottle worth keeping.
Days get shorter, temperatures get colder. Be prepared with a stop at your local Napa Auto Parts. If your battery's more than 4 years old, stop in. They can test it before it leaves you stranded in the cold. If you need a new battery or some new wiper blades, they'll even help you install them. Pick up a 50-pound bag of Blue Heat Ice Melt for $10. Be prepared for cold weather and snow with help from your friends at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts.
Over the past few years, strong and crazy weather patterns have battered various parts of the country. Northern Utah and southern Idaho are not immune from its share of wild weather. Be prepared for power outages with a Generac backup generator from Golden Spike Electric. They are your local source for Generac sales and service. Generac keeps you in control when bad weather strikes. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Sports Talk Radio, KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, and online at 1069thefan.com.